helping them with their.
Morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is Wednesday. It is another episode of the LMTV Love My Two video. And today is my great pleasure to invite a fellow entrepreneur and a technologist and a successful company builder, John Smith. John, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Great to be here.
And John is it's actually kind of early for you, right? You how many hours ahead are you from us? From the West Coast? It's 3,
we're
right?
behind by 2 hours. It was 3 hours last week, but now it's a little better. It's 2 hours now.
so you skip breakfast just to be here. Anyway, those of you might not remember, but we actually interviewed with John about a year ago. John has started a very interesting company, and not only with the interesting product, but he started the company in a very interesting place, which is Hawaii. And he and his co-founder had built the company to the point that they finally managed to attract some venture money, and they did that. And with that money, they grew quite a bit, and they now have a office in the West Coast, mainly for marketing and customer service. So we have some time today. So I want to be able to give John a chance to really tell us about the company from the beginning, because some of you might not have heard of LiveAction. Jim and I are actually very excited about the company. But one of the things that I think is worth mentioning is that in the funding that they just got a year ago, Cisco was actually a strategic investor. Now it turns out that one of my first company, we had Cisco as a strategic investor as well. So that could be a two-edged sword. But at the very least, it's a recognition. It's a recognition that what John is doing is worthwhile to the industry, and more than that is that it's a recognition that they have created independent footprint, so to speak, in the otherwise Cisco dominated network. So, with that, I'm going to turn over to John. John, when did you start the company? You and your co-founder started the company.
Well, we started the research many years ago, like 8-9 years ago, and started off, researching for government about, how do you do Cisco and other network management easier. And one of the primary drivers was really quality of service. Mm-hmm. So early on, we went to Cisco Networkers. It was called Networkers before it was called Cisco Live. And we attended these QoS sessions. Tim Sisgetti's like a really well-known Cisco engineer that gives these. And I went to these sessions, and it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours long. And we went through all these manuals, and it was really hard. And at the end of the session, they were saying, you got to be a rocket scientist to really understand all this and do it. And literally, I went back into the lab and tried it. I cracked open that 500-page Cisco manual and tried to do all these things. And I thought, well, the average network engineer is not a CCIE. And even if you're a CCIE, you're going to have to spend all this time trying to figure this out. Like, there needs to be a tool. And at the conference, I heard the same complaints. It's like, what is the tools that are going to help us with this? And usually ended up back then, it was like 9 years ago, it was the command line. And, it just not scalable, and it just takes too much time. So that's where we got started, was quality of service. How do you make that easier?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it turns out that the problem is not unique, right? Lots of people. I mean, it was not a difficult product to sell once you get in front of the right people.
Oh yeah, definitely. And we're getting a lot more large enterprise customers. They take quality of service seriously with all these SaaS applications. If you don't have QoS on your WAN links, like your Google Apps or Microsoft Office 365 doesn't work well, and it just impacts everybody. And everybody's doing voice, video, Skype, GoToMeeting, WebEx.
I want to back up a step too, John. I kind of remember we talked about this last time. You've been in the networking industry for a while, and even date back to kind of a telecom era back in the 2000s, right? Weren't you with a company that got acquired by another company? Kind of refresh my memory on that.
Yeah, I used to be the VP of engineering at Spirent a long time ago.
Ah, there you go. There you go. Yeah.
And yeah, prior to that, I was working for a smaller company that got bought by Spirent. But yeah, I've been in network tests for a long time. Frame relay, ATM still makes sense to me.
Yeah. So
It worked. Trust
yeah.
me.
So
Yeah.
I just want to be sure that people understand that John, in spite of his youthful look, he's been in the industry for a long time. And there's no better way to start a company than it is to solve a problem for people they didn't know. So anyway, you built the product, and you guys were doing very well already a year ago before you got the funding, right?
Well, we're doing really well, and I think Cisco, we're a partner with them, and we got on their global price list, which made a really big difference. Where the Cisco sales team can actually help sell our product, and it's also helping them with their quota as well. But we getting the message out. We're going to all these sessions now. So the last 3 months, I think we've gone to so many sessions in all these different cities that Cisco sponsors. It's called Cisco Networkers, and then we give our presentation.
But John, that could only mean one thing, which is that they were using your product to sell their product.
I think it's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I can say that because that's my experience. Is that when strategic alliance, especially with a company like Cisco, is very hard to do, and the worst is when it comes from business development, because they have this great vision, they think that they need you, but that could change overnight. But the best, it sounds to me like, is what you did, which is that the alliance came from bottom up and came from the salespeople, and that I said that can only mean one thing, which is that they encounter some pushback from the customer selling their own product, and so they say, well, why don't we, this is a win-win, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that's good. That's a great story. That's a great story.
Yeah, I mean, Cisco has so much capabilities and your routers and devices, and our product really enables it. So it's a great selling point for Cisco, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so that's good. So we're gonna give you plenty of time to talk about your product and to demonstrate it. That's what we prepared to do today. But quickly, just in, under 30 seconds, if I were a customer, if I were Mr. Enterprise, and I have a huge data center dominated with Cisco gear, explain to me why I need to talk to LiveAction.
Well, with all the Cisco gear that you have, and also we're also multi-vendor, you're going to have application and network performance issues. And our tool is the best tool out there to leverage your infrastructure to understand application performance through your data center, through your WAN, so that your users have a really good experience with their tools, whether it's collaboration tools, video, voice. That's basically it.
And so with that, why don't you do what you plan to do today, which is, if I understand it correctly, is something that new set of features that you guys have developed in just the last year, right?
Yeah. So I think since we have a lot of capabilities in a lot of different areas, but our customers use it primarily for QoS and also for voice and video and application performance management, and that covers a lot of different capabilities. And part of it is leveraging things like Cisco AVC and IWAN and things of that sort. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I guess in the last year, we're seeing a lot more adoption by very large enterprises. So we kind of beefed up areas like increased role-based access, so that a particular user can actually go to like very specific details on which devices they can see, because they have all these teams now. So a certain team can only see certain regions, so they wanted us to provide that kind of capabilities. But scale, so we've been working on. So just to back up a little bit, we do SNMP for quality of service and all the different other metrics, but we do flow. Like we really focused on net flow and IP fix. So we spent many years, researching how to do net flow at really high scale. So for us, like a single node in our collector can do 1 million flows per second, which is very high. But we also have a distributed architecture, so you go higher than that. But we're seeing more and more people turning on flow because it's providing really good and interesting information, and gathering all that and then visualizing is kind of one of our bread and butter things that we do.
Okay.
And another aspect that we're seeing a lot of traction is this thing called IWAN. So I think the viewers probably heard about SD-WAN, and one flavor of that and Cisco's leading this area is called IWAN, so Intelligent WAN Solutions, and it's really getting driven because people are tired of paying high MPLS costs for their WAN, and now they have an alternative, which is just the regular broadband internet. But you need certain assurances, and basically what IWAN does is, yeah, you got these choices now. You can use broadband or MPLS, and it'll make the choices for you when certain conditions say that my voice is better on one circuit versus another. It'll intelligently do all those for you. So we're seeing a lot of traction where, due to cost savings, people are going towards IWAN. And we were there initially with Cisco. Like, Cisco built in all these great analytics of understanding how that works, and we put that into the tool. So we're getting a lot of traction there. But I can demonstrate some of that on the actual tool, if that's okay.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
So is LiveAction primarily a software company then? Is that how you would characterize your product?
Yeah, pretty much. We're purely software, and you can put this on your virtual infrastructure, or you can put it on bare metal if you wanted to. And we have a distributed architecture where you have collector.
So we actually have a Q&A panel open up, and one of the questions that was asked is that what data sources does LiveAction utilize?
Oh, good question. So we primarily use SNMP v2 or v3 to gather like basic information. I think you can see on the screen right now, our topology view. So this is the router, the big circle, and the smaller circle are interfaces. So we use SNMP to understand the IP addresses and how all this maps, and we give you like this live topology view of your network. And then the second data source is NetFlow. So when you actually have flow coming from all these devices, we'll overlay it on top of your live topology, so you can see exactly what's going on, all the way from like, let's say, your video camera. I have one running here, all the way through your network, and we can tell you the performance across your network as well. So those are the two primary, and we do all the flavors of NetFlow: IPFix, SFlow, JFlow. And then, so just talking a little bit more about application performance. Like, one of the primary cases is video. Like, there's so much video happening within these large enterprises. So just looking at this particular traffic for the video camera, we can actually bring up information. So the Cisco infrastructure and also your multi-vendor infrastructure is pumping out information like packet loss, jitter, events, media stream information. So it makes the network engineer's job a lot easier now, where the instrumentation can come directly from your network devices. You don't have to add probes and other network instrumentation. And from this, I can actually ask, using our analytics, what is the path that this video camera took? Oh, wow. And I can actually tell you per hop, this video traffic from this camera went through the 2921, 1811, 1941. We'll correlate all this data, and we'll tell you where the packet loss is happening, which QoS policies are getting affected. And then at the end of the day, we can show you on the topology, like, hey, this is where the problem is. Oh. So this is where you're basically going to be running into issues, and this is where you need to focus. So just imagine in a large enterprise with thousands of devices and thousands of applications and users, like, how am I going to find this needle in a haystack? And we try to make that easier for you. So that's one of our primary use cases that we use it for. And the other use case is really, how do you fix this? So now that we told you where the problem is, like, how do you fix this thing? So some of the things that we do is we enable your infrastructure to see, deep packet inspection and actually see live traffic. So the top graph is actually showing you, all the applications using DPI, what's running on this network. So you have Citrix, you have Skype, BGP, other information. But at the end of the day, our tool is about quality of service. So how do I turn this application into business priorities? So we have an easy way to set a policy, and once you do, we can show you the performance. So like the top graph is showing you what's all this traffic that's trying to go out that interface, and the bottom is the performance of that policy of how do you actually control that. Oh. And with a single right click, we could read in the policy and we can make changes. So this is one of the things that I mentioned earlier is, I don't have to crack open that Cisco manual to know that, hey, I need to increase my voice bandwidth, for example, and I can increase it by percentages or my interactive video. So it makes it very easy to make changes as I need it to. So if streaming video, I want to make it a little bit higher. But we made it easy in the point that, we fix up the policy. So we don't just push configurations out. We know the context. So here you can tell that we fixed the policy for you, so this will be good to go to get pushed out. Whereas other tools, they just push templates out. So they assume that they have a clean slate, for example. But yeah, for us, we model the actual configuration and then we push it out for you. So that's kind of the closed loop workflow of identifying an application and where the problem is, and then going into the quality of service to actually fix that. So we try to shorten that time frame for people.
So John, if I've all of a sudden I've got aberrant behavior in my network, like all of a sudden I start seeing a lot of IPv6, which I can't share with IPv4, or all of a sudden I start seeing a large amount of traffic, whether async, whatever, does this have what I would call a not case, and this is normal traffic, this is not normal, automatically senses that there's something unusual going on?
We do a lot of alerting related to application performance, and in the future we're working more on network behavior analysis. People are asking us for more security-based metrics for that too. So we're working on those as well.
Yeah, because that's ultra important, because you can be looking at all the good traffic and trying to figure out what the problem is, when in fact you've got an attack going on, or most likely a user that's not currently awake and doing something he shouldn't be doing or she shouldn't be doing. So,
right.
I love the way it consolidates the traffic, so you can just look at it and say, "Oh, I see what's going on."
Right. And then another thing that we're working on a lot is, like I mentioned, the IWAN. So IWAN is a pretty complex technology, but we try to simplify it for you. So we have Wizard, so that if you wanted to set up these IWAN for you, you can actually go through the Wizard and actually do all the steps necessary. So setting up the hub router, the master controller. So you don't have to crack open that IWAN manual either. We can also do this through the Wizard. So I guess what we're trying to do is make it easier for the network engineers to consume all these capability that's going to make your life, but also your customers' life a lot better. And IWAN is one of that. Yeah. And then some of the other things we're working on is, our larger customers have always asked us, we want a REST API to actually control and get metrics out of our system. So we built a REST API to get, NetFlow data, QoS data, and other things. So, larger customers that want to script or programmatically grab that data set, you can. So we started adding some of that capabilities as well. And then for other customers, they have so much data. So you can kind of see, I'm showing within a network device, all the different traffic, but this could be a lot of data. So we have capabilities to easily search through this. I could say flow.ip source IP equal to 10.0.0.2, for example. So we have ways to search this traffic, but we had some asks from our customers saying, hey, I want to do it so that I can use wildcard searches, for example. So you can actually do masking to find certain patterns. So we had one customer that had hundreds of sites, but they had a certain pattern in their IP addresses. So you can actually search that using certain regular expressions, and you can add on additional things like show me that plus traffic that's marked EF, for example, and go find that for me, and it'll actually go and search all that. So yeah, we're adding a lot more capabilities for large networks, trying to make it more understandable, finding the information that you want to see to make it easier. And then you could dig down into all these different details, and you can also play this back. So one of the things that we did was, we made it so we can collect all this information on the back end in raw format. So we don't aggregate this away. So if you wanted to see something a month ago and see all the raw data, we can do that for you. And you can say, hey, go back to a certain time, and then play this back in like 30-second increments. And you can filter this too if you want. So it'll just go back and then play back all the flows that you've seen. So it's like a DVR for your network. So when you're troubleshooting like application performance issues and things of that sort, it's usually not that individual app, but it's usually the other apps that might be eating the bandwidth. So we can show you in context what's going on.
About how far back can you go on a regular basis?
We have a really optimized database, so as long as you have hard disk space, we can go back. So if you have, a couple terabytes, you're good for over a year, depending on the size of the network. Yeah. So we do pretty good work there. And another thing that we've been working on is on the Nexus line. So we do Nexus 7K pretty well. But we're seeing a lot more traction on the Nexus 9K, so we're adding, S-Flow support and additional capabilities. So the Nexus 3K, 7K, 9K, so getting more information. So we're seeing a lot more traction on the 9K, I think. Yeah. Yeah, so I think our customers are, really finding the benefit, especially, as they get, larger and larger networks. But I think one of the things that we do see is, with IWAN and other, capabilities, the network is becoming more dynamic, and just trying to understand that with just, graphs and reports. And we have, graphs and reports as well, but trying to make sense of it at the high level, I think really helps. And part of it is like scaling. So I'm showing a small part of the network, but in reality, I can have thousands of devices. So, we kind of mocked up here a data center with multiple sites, larger campuses. But from this level, I can see the whole network, thousands of devices, thousands of sites. But I can also drill down into a specific device, down to a specific interface. So our customers love this because in one UI, they can see the total landscape, but also go down to a specific interface they have to. And it's actually pretty interesting. And if you ever want to find a device, you can just go right-click, zoom to device, and it'll just take care of it. It'll go find it for you. So here you go. Automatic zoom.
And John, have you ever given this to like a university to do studies and teach with? Because most students come out of the technology education not fluent necessarily in current solutions. They still believe SPAN's the only way to watch the network, and SNMP is old, and they don't know really a lot of the difference between 2 and 3, and it's just a lot of, they're not really handed this kind of information so they can understand what they have to do every day. I think most network application engineer or network engineers today will say, I learned by the seat of my pants. I jumped in the airplane and I took off, and I either flew or crashed.
Right. Yeah, so yeah, I think students are, can download our software. We have a 14-day trial, but just ask us. It's at www.liveaction.com. But if when I was learning networking and routing, I wish I had this tool because
Yeah.
it'll tell you exactly what's going on in the network. And otherwise, I was spending, hours and hours on the command line trying to like correlate everything. It's just ridiculously hard. And I wish this tool was around.
Yeah. It sounds. I mean, to me, it would be wonderful. I mean, because one of the first things you have to do is teach people what your network is doing right now.
Right.
And when a new person comes in, and you want to teach them about your network so they can be familiar with it, and its applications, its flows, its response times, and all that, this is a hell of a visibility capability. So it seemed like to me something that would be hard to pass up and not deploy. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
being, but I mean, I've never seen.
Hey, John, we have another question from the live audience, and I'm going to just repeat the words because I'm not sure I understand the question, but I'm sure you do. Where do you find the search format examples, like searching for a specific IP segment with EF traffic, for example?
Yeah, so we have a syntax, and it's built into our help tool, so it's pretty easy to follow. We kind of did it a little bit close to like what Wireshark does, but it's really, the flow.IP source equal to, whatever IP address. But typically you'll be looking at your network, or you'll have a user complaining about certain issues, and you'll probably narrow down your search based off of that. But the syntax is pretty easy, and you can combine different clauses if you wanted to. And by the way, you can also use that search to create application definitions. So if you had an app or a set of I guess one of our customers had certain devices that had a certain IP mask, and they wanted to use that as a filter term to make a custom application. So we can actually bring that into our tool as well. So.
Well, one of the things about expedited forwarding is that you really need to understand what the network is doing before that's implemented, and also look at your carrier capabilities, because that's voice over IP mainly that they're using, and it's usually SIP.
Right.
So you kind of need to understand a little bit about what the EF actually is and what your network is doing with it, because it is a push. It's a push technology.
Right. So some of our customers, what they do is they download a tool, and there's like a little audit button at the top. And what we'll do is we'll go through every device and look at it from like a quality of service perspective. We'll show you every policy on every interface that's there as a starting point. And some customers, they had a consultant come in and do QoS, but they weren't sure what they did. So they push that audit button, and you get a good report of what's going on. And we have, certain rules that we run. So we'll tell you some of the issues that we see. But from there, you can start applying QoS policies, and we have built-in templates. So you don't necessarily have to know about all the different markings. We have it built into the policies that we have already in the tool. And from there, you can get started and start marking. But one of the interesting things is that the visualization I showed you, you can actually color it based off of your DSCP markings. So we've had numerous incidents where a certain device would start remarking that traffic to something different, and it's really easy to pick off because it's red EF through a certain part of the network, and that same flow turns blue, being best effort in the rest of the network. Otherwise, to debug that, you'd be running like 6 reports and trying to find that from your graphs, which is just too time-consuming.
And if a customer ever has a problem, they get on the phone and call your support, and happen to know a couple of your support people. One of them is Keith Parsons, and if Keith can't help you, I'm not sure it's ever going to be fixed. So.
Yeah, Keith's our Dr. NetFlow, so he knows everything about NetFlow. I mean, he's been in the industry a very long time, so he's an expert. And we have also CCIEs on staff like Clark, and he's really good. He's done large, VoIP deployments. So when you buy our tool, you're getting that level of expertise. So if you have any QoS deployments that you have to do, I mean, this is a really good tool to get started as a starting point. And the more complex, policies you delve into, the value of the tool really shines in that aspect.
That's what I was trying to point out. Is you had some great support team.
Yeah. So John, this is in fact part one of a two-part interview. The second part would be we're actually scheduled for Thursday of next week, 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, same time, and this is actually going to be with your one of your colleagues, Eureka, and we title it 5 Key Monitoring Requirements for Monitoring Network. Can you perhaps just kind of give us a hint on what would be talked about next week and how it will be complementing what you just talked about?
Yeah, so Ulrika, she came from Cisco over a year ago to our company, but she brings in a lot of expertise in areas of understanding from a user perspective, how application performance is affected. So she's going to talk about, what are the key technology pieces you really need to understand application performance, especially in this, SaaS/cloud type environments. So she'll go into in-depth, and she'll point out, not just our tools but other tools and how they fit into the mix. But yeah, there's interesting things that we're doing, and that she'll talk about, how we can help you in this new SaaS cloud deployed environment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, that would be great. We look forward to that. Hey, so we should probably wrap this up. Turns out that if we make it too long, people just won't watch it.
Okay.
So maybe we could wrap it up by kind of going back to your entrepreneur roots and talk about the company once again. I mean, first of all, congratulations. You're transitioning in a way, right, from a lone entrepreneur or from just a small group of technologists to now a really full-blown company.
Yeah, we've been in transition for a while, but yeah, I mean, I think we have over 50 employees now, so we're getting big. And yeah, our headquarters is in Santa Clara, so all the management, marketing, sales, all the support is out of our Santa Clara office, and we're growing. So yeah, it's been really good, and it's really the team. It's just, yeah, we have a really great team of engineers, support guys, marketing, sales. So they've been really helping to grow the company, but it's really the customers. I think we're building things that our customers are finding valuable, and getting their input. I mean, we have this huge list of features and products that we want to do, and actually you'll be hearing some of that from Ulrika. We have another new product that she'll announce as well. But we have another release coming out before end of the year, where one of the big things that our customers are asking for is web enabled UI. So you'll see a release for that, and we're pretty excited about that too.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, so we're gonna wrap it up by giving some time to Tim. The first rule of marketing, especially in Hollywood, is always get someone else to talk about you.
Okay.
Right, so we're gonna turn that over to Tim. Tim, you were just mentioning right before we start the show how you were just you've been talking to some of your friends in the industry, and they're all kind of flabbergasted that there could be such a successful opportunity for someone like LiveAction. Right? Tell us about that.
Well, you've always got the people that want to be the geek and want to write the code, and they believe they're an expert in command line, and they want to do this. But this is a consolidated solution. This is something that you could still write code if you wish. They'll even help you write the right code, and they'll tell you when you're making mistakes. But it's a deploy and see program. I mean, you deploy it, and it automatically wakes up and starts showing you stuff that you just wouldn't normally find in a single plane visibility. And like John pointed out, now with virtualization, you've got to do all of it. You got to do the hard connect and the virtual connect. And I mean, I think the great thing about it, from what most people tell me, is, and I've got a couple of friends that I've tried to get to download, and then one of them finally did and was like, wow, he was actually in the middle of a problem and had never seen the network like this, and he told me he was going to get the money to buy a copy. And I've got 2 small firms here that I've showed it, and they're going to try to buy it. And so it doesn't matter if you're a small company or you're a big company. If you're in a compliance environment, which, by the way, it won't be too long, and no matter what environment you're in, it will be compliance based with all the new laws being passed and all of the constant threats. But as John pointed out, they're even moving further, adding more features to move into a little bit of more of a security perspective. Because what's the first thing you want to know in your network? If something's going on that shouldn't be going on, you should know about it. And this gives you the visibility to do that. I'm just blown away by how, still in my mind, the biggest thing is how he took something from this big, huge company called Cisco and made it into a company that gives such visibility so quickly. So congratulations, John. This has really been an incredible story, and I hope to see more of it.
Yeah, definitely a team effort.
Well, yeah, but I mean, someone had to think of it first.
No, of course, yeah. Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
well,
I think we're going to see more of it, Denny. I think more people are going to grab hold of it. And now, of course, with Cisco as a partner, they're going to push it a lot more because it makes Cisco look better. And it's like getting a polish on your car. Your car looks great, but if you get a good wax job, it looks even better. And that's what this can do for them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that I want to go back to what you said about engineers have this difficulty in making the transition from command line to graphics interface, and they often think that just, you know, that's not what the substance is. But the reality is it really changes your customer set, right? It's like going from control key to mouse. You know, all of a sudden it just takes. But in any case, congratulations, John. So we look forward to next week, and with that, we're going to close the show. Once again, thanks, Tim.
My pleasure. Everybody be blessed.
Okay, so we'll see you again next week and continue talking about live action. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.